Hey everyone, happy spring and welcome to our latest market update video where we explain what's happening in the DC metro area market so that you can make the best real estate decisions. We're going to start by looking at what's happening right now. Then we're going to look at why it's happening and we'll finish with what that means for real estate moving forward.
Currently at this minute, the real estate market remains very strong throughout DC, but there are signs of cooling for sure. The number of active listings continues to be historically low throughout the DC metro area. We need to average 5,000 homes for sale throughout greater DC to meet demand. Currently, we sit at 2,500. The buyers have simply fewer options. The number of new properties coming on the market is slightly lower than normal, but well below the number we need to meet demand. Demand has been extremely high over the past few years due to the need for more space during the pandemic and the opportunity to buy at lower interest rates. There just hasn't been enough houses for sale to meet demand. This has caused the houses that come on the market to sell very quickly. Typically, we are around 30 days on average for a house to go under contract, and currently we sit at 10 days. So if you're a buyer, you need to be fully ready to move quickly if you start looking at houses. Don't wait until you find a house you like to start thinking about your loan options. If you're looking now and need to talk to a lender, we have several recommendations we can give you. Ultimately, this strong demand has caused this month's supply of housing to be well below the 3 months that we need to have stable prices. In this chart, you can see the tale of two markets though. The red line represents single-family homes and the yellow line is condos. Since the pandemic, single-family homes have been incredibly high demand. Lower means a hotter market, and the condo market has been softer, although condos are showing signs of recovery now. All this has led to rising prices. We have seen a 30% increase in housing prices in the past 2 years. Keep in mind that the normal rate is about 3 to 4% per year.
So that's what's happening right now. Let's talk about why it's happening. And I want to go all the way back to the Great Recession of 2008. I want you to imagine the US economy as a body, like a person. And in 2008, it had a heart attack and it went into a coma and it was gonna die. The stock market collapsed, companies were insolvent, and the whole US economy was on the verge of collapse. We would have had another Great Depression. So the government decided to step in and put the economy on life support to keep it alive, hooking it up to an IV to infuse nutrients and a ventilator to keep it breathing. Now the nutrients was the huge infusion of cash, also known as quantitative easing, which is basically printing money and allowing people to borrow it to pay their bills to avoid bankruptcy. They basically just printed money. The ventilator was the low interest rates, which allowed it to keep breathing. And people could keep borrowing and paying back without accumulating massive debt, kind of kicking the can down the road. Now, like life support, these steps kept the body alive, but it wasn't healthy and it wasn't living on its own. Over time, you need to take the body off life support so it can live on its own strength. Historically, healthy mortgage interest rates are around 6%. We have been below 5% since 2008. Now, as the economy started to recover, they wanted to allow interest rates to start rising, but then something would come up that would scare people, like the stock market dipping down or a mini recession. And most importantly, and recently, the pandemic. And each time this would happen, or some of these scares would happen, they would lower the rates and spend money. Over the past 15 years, the Fed has kept interest rates low and has introduced so much cash that the economy has actually done really well. It's up and it's running. That body that was in a coma is now up and running around, and it still has the IV in, so it's too healthy, which leads to inflation. Inflation is basically too many dollars chasing too few products, which causes the cost of those products to rise. It's time to take the economy off the ventilator and the IV. And we want to see inflation levels around 2 to 3%. Right now they're at 8%. Because of this, the government doesn't have any other choice but to allow interest rates to rise and also spend less. Less access to easy money will cause people to buy less and borrow less. And more importantly, it makes it more expensive for companies to build and borrow, which will hinder their growth. And this is what leads to recession, and where we start to see the impact on real estate. I want you to think of the real estate market as a massive aircraft carrier. Prices of homes change direction very slowly. That aircraft carrier changes direction very slowly. Interest rates, however, are like a jet ski. They can turn on a dime. Right now, we are around 5.3% for a new 30-year fixed mortgage. 1 year ago, we were at 2.9%. That's a 2.4% increase in interest rates in a year, which is really affecting buyers because as interest rates go up, mortgage payments go up. A $3,000 payment, if you can afford that, would get you a $700,000 loan for a house last year. Today, it gets you a $550,000 loan. So a buyer who can afford a $3,000 a month payment can now afford $150,000 less of a house this year than last year. But prices have not gone down. Now, these higher interest rates are still very new and fresh, and we won't fully know the impact on demand and pricing for several months because of that aircraft carrier moving. But it will cause things to cool off because it affects affordability. The bottom line is that an increase in prices and interest rates leads to a decrease in affordability. We are still better now than we were in the 80s and 90s. But as interest rates rise, affordability will decrease. So now let's talk about what that means for the future.
When we look at historical interest rates, our current rate of 5.3% is still very good. If you believe that inflation will continue, then it's likely that interest rates will continue to rise. If you're a buyer, you'll want to buy sooner rather than later. If you're a seller, you have to gamble on how high interest rates will go before it starts to really affect sales prices. So here's the good news. Look at this chart of housing value since 1945. Housing continues to be a great place to invest. And when you look at the reason for the crash after 2006, you can see that it was greatly tied to the loosening of requirements to get a mortgage. Currently, lending standards are nowhere near what they were back then, so we don't see a risk with people defaulting on their loans, which leads to quick price corrections.
If anything, you will see that people who want to move will find it hard to justify selling and losing their current mortgage with a 2.5% interest rate to buy a new home with a new rate of 5+%. And I think that reality is going to cause a lot of people to stay put longer than they would have liked. All that to say, each person's circumstances are different. So whether you're thinking of buying, selling, building, or investing, the best thing to do is set up a personal consultation with a trusted real estate advisor who can assess your needs and create a strategy based on your goals for where you want to be in the future. And if you don't have one, we would be happy to be that for you. We can set up that consultation to discuss your needs and how to use real estate to achieve your long-term personal and financial goals.
That's it for this month. Check out some of our other team videos and feel free to reach out with any real estate questions. And please know that we are never too busy for your referrals of anyone you know that's looking to buy or sell a home.